the Erythrin spires. They weren't supposed to exist, but exist they do. Made by creators unknown, explorers seek answers, yet none have returned with more than whispers. Are these structures warnings of doom? In their stillness lies a question. Why are they here?
Why, indeed. We start by photo-scanning our assets. A tank, a drone, the armorer from the Mandalorian, and a tower. Now I do have a course teaching guerrilla photogrammetry, which is about getting best photo scans in less than ideal conditions with post-processing in Blender and some high-quality bonus assets as well. But for this sequence, I'm going to use a game-changing technology provided by KIRI Engine, who are kindly sponsoring this video. It's called Gaussian splatting to mesh. The Gaussian splats themselves are ellipsoid functions stacked on top of each other and solved to represent a 3D model. This is a widely different volumetric rendering technique, and it's unlike representing models by vertices or surfaces like in Blender, for example. These two are separate things, but the minds behind the KIRI engine just found a way to convert these Gaussian splats into mesh, and the results are even better than photogrammetry. In the mobile interface, we will scan with all the available methods. The first is the classical photo scanning. Using the in-app feature of KIRI Engine, we can directly take photos and upload them. We go around in an onion peel fashion along the main facets of the model, give a name to the model, and here we have the options to isolate the object being scanned. We can choose the poly count and texture resolution and quality. We can also choose the file format. All of this virtually eliminates the need for post-processing for most models. This data now gets uploaded to the cloud for processing. Normally you would require a GPU with CUDA cores to process the photo scans. Whereas with remote uplink like this, anyone can photo scan while being highly mobile. The second way we will scan is the LiDAR scanning method. This is a very quick data acquisition method that uses the LiDAR sensor. It integrates the AR technology with photo scanning. Once we have the bound set up, we just move around the object. No need to take any pictures this time, as it's a constant LiDAR beam that measures the surface topology. To get the best results from this method, we'll need to turn it sideways and doing another round. The bars at the bottom indicate that we have acquired the data from that particular direction, and the dots indicate the triangulation points. We flip it to the other side and repeat the process one more time. Name it and send it for cloud processing as well. We now have 4 scans being processed in parallel at the same time. And the good thing is, we can add more. And this time, the armorer from Mandalorian. And to scan this model, we will finally use the Gaussian splatting to mesh functionality. We can take the video taken from the phone camera app and upload it to the KIRI servers. Give it a name, turn on 3D Gaussian splatting to mesh option so that it does not generate just the Gaussian splats, but also converts it to the mesh. Whilst we're uploading new datasets, few of our photo scans have already processed and come back. Now the last model is interesting because photo scanning really struggles with featureless and reflective or transparent objects. The top portion of this object has all of these features. Let's see how Gaussian splatting holds up against this. So this time we collect the data from in-app function of video recording, and since we're recording a video and not taking pictures, this process again is a lot faster. And again we send the data for processing. As this data is getting processed, we get notifications for every model that has finished processing. Now we import all of these models into Blender and inspect how they turned out. The first model is from reality capture using the same dataset that was sent over to KIRI Engine. And frankly, I'm at a loss of words really. I'll just leave it to that. KIRI Engine has generated comparatively much cleaner mesh from reality capture using the same dataset. But the real magic is the mesh generated from the Gaussian splats. Look how clean the model is. No blobbiness, no extra unwanted features that would need cleaning up in post. and the model itself has been isolated perfectly with no extra peripheral geometry that would need further cleanup. And same for the drone, the surfaces are very well defined as compared to the other techniques. The LiDAR model is okay, but the mesh looks less detailed and there are some artifacts in mesh reconstruction. And like I said, the photoscanning version is just struggling finding the features to track in the areas which are relatively plain. Now the tank model is different. It shows mid-level details clearer than the Gaussian splatting version. The reason is that tank surface is rough with lots of trackable triangulation points that the photoscanning algorithm can lock onto. And in the final model, the Gaussian splatting to mesh algorithm smashes the photoscanning algorithm out of the park. Featureless, reflective or transparent surfaces are a bane for photoscanning. But look at the mesh from the Gaussian splats. Look how well the form is preserved compared to photoscanning. The automatic isolation of the object from the surface on which it was sitting on is also phenomenal in the Gaussian splats version compared to the photoscanning one. All of these models are freely available on my Patreon, so feel free to go and have a look and use them freely in your own projects. I've also got a free email newsletter where I send tips, tricks and 3D inspiration directly in your inbox. It's completely free, and if you wish, you can subscribe and get some value. Now we bring 3 of these meshes which we're going to use in Unreal Engine. And we assign the respective materials of each model. Now we're going to migrate these models into the dark ruined scene by Quixel. Here we'll move around to find a good composition for our camera and where the models can go where they look like they belong to the scene. This is quite an extensive and well-built map. I think the place here just at the rocky beach would be great for a composition, as it gives a sense of mystery. So we can search for our models that we migrated from our previous file into the project file here and drag and drop into the scene. I'll just correct the orientation and import the drone model as well and correct the orientation of that too. Lastly, we've got the model of towers which are going to be the Erythrian spires. So we place this over the mountaintop to give it the initial look and we start working from there. The texture of the drone looks a bit too saturated in this scene. We can add on a desaturation node in the master material and control its intensity with a constant. Now we can assign the material instance to the drone, and now we can have the saturation parameter here to tinker with. We can treat the armorer with the same desaturated look. Now I can just duplicate the towers where the buildings are and go to our tentative camera view to see how it's looking from this perspective. Now we'll add a spotlight that is supposedly being emitted from the drone as a guide light just to give a picture a bit more contrast. We can give it just an orange color, adjust the rotation and put it in front of the drone. Just to add in a bit more visual interest, we can add some emissive lights on the side of the drone to show that it's powered up. The story here is that the armorer and the accompanying drone are exploring this unexplained land. Now to add in more depth, we add some fog using the Ultra Volumetrics plugin for Unreal Engine. We'll adjust this bounce to see where it affects, similar to Blender Volumetrics, but a lot more responsive and with a lot more options and control. And obviously real time. To make the fog a little bit more dynamic, we can choose the preset of dry ice. And we change a few settings. We can play with height a little in order to set how far up the fog goes. Set shadows to minimal because that's how real fog acts. Adjust the self shadow contrast a little. And we can increase the height a little bit more to give it more area to act on, hence making it denser and filling a bit more mystery into the scene. Similarly, we can place a few more localized regions of fog that would augment the aura of mystique. And lastly, we increase the frequency of the rocks generator by modulating the minimum and maximum duration of the loop of the rock generator. And finally, we render the entire thing out. The best thing is, it only took 3 minutes and 40 seconds to render in 4K. Here is the final thing.
The Erythrian spires. They weren't supposed to exist, but exist they do. made by creators unknown. Explorers seek answers, yet none have returned with more than whispers. Are these structures warnings of doom? In their stillness lies a question. Why are they here?
Until next time, farewell.